Hi, VencoreWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday, November 28th. A relatively quiet pattern for the Mid-Atlantic region for the next several days. Probably the next week or so will be relatively quiet. Quite mild this afternoon after a chilly start. High temperatures not too far from 60 degrees in many parts of the I-95 corridor region between D.C., Philadelphia, and New York City. Looks like another 60-degree day is on tap for tomorrow. Turns a little bit colder on Thursday as a frontal system comes through the region. That front could cause some showers Thursday night or so. Chilly Friday, probably on the cool side for Saturday, Sunday into the early part of next week. But again, relatively quiet pattern for the next week or so. Late next week is when interesting pattern starts to form. It looks like high latitude blocking will continue with abnormally high pressure over places like Greenland and northern Canada, and an upper level trough will form first in the central U.S. and then into the eastern U.S. so that by the time we get to about December 10th or so, give or take a couple of days, could have quite interesting weather here in the eastern U.S. and it looks like once that colder pattern sets up, it may very well stick around for a while. Well, first thing I want to talk about this morning is the potential major eruption coming in Indonesia. This is on the island of Bali in Indonesia, and we posted about this about a month ago. Anytime a volcanic eruption can occur in the tropics especially, it can be important in terms of long-term impact on global temperatures. This is in the tropics region, about 8 degrees south of the equator, and this is an image from last night. It is spewing some ash way up into the atmosphere right now. Not a major eruption, but kind of a constant eruption of spewing of the ash way up into the atmosphere. Certainly, if this has a major eruption, it sends a lot of aerosol material into the upper part of the atmosphere. That'll slowly spread around the Earth. It can have ramifications on global temperatures over the next couple of years. Not necessarily this winter, but in the longer term, the medium and longer term, the next couple of years, a major eruption that could happen here in the tropical region could certainly have an impact over the next couple of years. So we'll continue to monitor this. The original story about the Bali volcano is on our website, VencoreWeather.com, under the blog menu, Climate Info page. Well, let's kind of focus in on the 500 millibar height anomaly forecast from the ensemble run of the GFS last night. This is 00 GEFS 500 millibar height anomaly forecast maps. And we'll just go forward well into the future here, into the middle part of December, to see exactly what is going to transpire in terms of the pattern. Again, mild for the next couple of days, a little bit cooler the latter part of this week, but the big change to colder weather looks like it'll occur here in the eastern U.S. late next week. First of all, we're starting off with high latitude blocking. We have abnormally high heights, abnormally high pressure, warmer conditions than normal across places like Greenland right here. This is very impressive high latitude blocking, and we've talked a lot about high latitude blocking over the past several weeks. Does not guarantee cold air into the eastern U.S., but it is a favorable sign for cold air, and indeed we've had colder than normal conditions on average for the month of November. Again, strong high latitude blocking right now, but will actually become mild this afternoon and tomorrow afternoon as well. Basically, this time around with this high latitude blocking, the colder air is kind of confined to our north. It's shunted off across Canada and will not penetrate into the U.S. But let's take a look and go forward here. Notice all the oranges across the nation, and again, a quiet, relatively mild period for much of the nation over the next week or so. High latitude blocking continues over places like Greenland and closer to the North Pole. But here in the U.S., weak high pressure region, abnormally high pressure across the U.S., indicating relatively mild and quiet conditions for the next week or so. Then as we move forward, here we're at the beginning part of December, this weekend, still, again, basically a zonal flow, west to east flow, relatively mild flow across the nation. Notice trough starting to set up across the eastern Pacific Ocean, high latitude blocking breaks down some by the weekend, but it'll redevelop here, reform here. Now watch the movement of this upper level trough here. Here we are into the early part of next week. Still higher heights than normal here in the Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic region. Relatively quiet, mild trend right through the middle part of next week, let's say. But then what we want to start looking for at this time here, now we're into the middle part of next week, high latitude blocking here will start to reform, strengthen, intensify over Greenland, northern Canada, indicated on these particular maps, by the way, available at tropicaltidbits.com, with the oranges. But notice a trough starting to develop here as represented by the blue area. This is the middle part of next week. When you get high latitude blocking combined with a deep upper level trough over the eastern U.S. this time of the year, you're in business for winter, potential winter weather here in the eastern U.S. with cold and even snow as a threat. Again, high latitude blocking starting to really intensify here with high pressure ridging over Greenland. This is now next Thursday, December 7th. Look at this deep upper level trough starting to form over the central and eastern U.S. Not only starting to form, but really broadening and strengthening here. And going forward, that is the basic pattern here. Now keep in mind, this is an ensemble run, which tends to smooth things out going forward. Certainly in the latter stages, the latter forecast maps, it tends to smooth things out. It goes more towards climatology as it progresses through its model run, a time verification time period. This is pretty impressive when you're looking at more than 10 days out, that there's such a deep upper level trough over the central and eastern U.S. combined with this blocking and what again is kind of a smooth forecast map here. Let's just keep moving forward here. Now we're all the way out to December 10th, and still upper level trough here, high latitude blocking way up over Greenland. This upper high latitude blocking is really kind of a classic scenario where all across the northern latitudes you have what's represented here as in orange as higher pressure than normal with a deep upper level trough sitting now over the eastern U.S. So it looks like once we get into this colder weather pattern here in the eastern U.S. in about 10 days, it looks like it may stick around for much of the remaining part of December. That, of course, will increase chances for a white Christmas in many parts of the northeast U.S. Well, how does this translate into temperatures? Let's take a look at the ensemble run 850 millibar temperature anomalies averaged over a 5-day period. So again, this is kind of a smoothed out average for a 5-day period. This is the current 5-day period we're in, days 1 to 5. Lots of warmer than normal conditions here in the lower part of the atmosphere in the U.S. and across Greenland, where that high latitude blocking, that higher pressure than normal, way above normal temperatures in that region. Canada, again, for the most part, near normal. Maybe southern Canada above normal. But this is the current 5-day period, days 1 through 5. Let's now jump ahead to days 6 to 10 here, and we'll pull this up here. Notice quite a difference here across the U.S. Still maybe a tad above normal. Again, this is 850 millibar temperature anomalies. That's a couple thousand feet up in the atmosphere. Relatively near normal. Again, smoothed out, an average for a 5-day period. This is the average from about December 3rd to December 8th. And the latter part of this 5-day period is turning colder and colder, and that's resulting in an overall relatively close to normal 5-day period for much of the nation. Now let's go ahead to days 11 to 15. And let's pull this thing up here, and here we go. Quite a change compared to what we'll have over the next 5 days. Colder than normal conditions throughout the eastern 2/3 of the nation. Again, this is going forward beyond 10 days, days 11 to 15, heading into the time period of December 10th to the 15th or so. And again, this is with high latitude blocking setting up. By the way, the high latitude, higher pressures than normal results in above normal temperatures across places like Alaska, northwest Canada, Greenland, and northern Canada. But down here in the central and eastern U.S., this particular pattern looks like it'll result in colder than normal conditions in about 10 days or so, 10 to 15 days is when the pattern changes, and it looks like once it turns colder, it'll stick around for a while, perhaps going through the remainder of December. Well, that's it for now. From VencoreWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.